Every day, thousands of people walked past the old blind man without seeing him. Then one stranger changed just a few words on a piece of cardboard, and within hours, the entire city began treating him like he truly mattered. What those words said would change not only his day, but also the hearts of everyone who read them. Before we continue, here's a small request. If you're enjoying this story, please like, follow, and subscribe to stay connected and never miss a new story. The words that opened every heart. The city never seemed to rest. From sunrise until long after dark, buses roared through crowded streets, taxis honked impatiently, delivery vans rushed from one destination to another, and endless streams of people hurried along the sidewalks. Everyone appeared to be racing against time. Most walked with their eyes locked on glowing phone screens while their minds were consumed by deadlines, unpaid bills, work pressure, and endless responsibilities. Although millions of people filled the streets every single day, loneliness quietly followed almost everyone. In the middle of all the noise and movement, genuine human connection had become incredibly rare. On the corner of one busy street sat an elderly man named Elias. His seat was nothing more than an old wooden crate that had become his daily place in the world. Years earlier, Elias had been a hard-working craftsman who believed that honest work gave life its greatest dignity. He had spent decades building furniture with his own hands, earning every dollar through determination and perseverance. He never imagined that one tragic accident would steal the only thing he depended on most, his eyesight. Since then, the colorful world he once admired had disappeared into complete darkness. Though life had become painfully difficult, Elias refused to lose his self-respect. His clothes were old and faded from years of wear, yet they were always clean because he believed dignity should never depend on wealth. Resting beside him was a small aluminum cup, and leaning against it was a worn piece of cardboard that simply read, "I am blind. Please help me." Every morning, he quietly listened to the footsteps of strangers passing by, hoping someone might notice him. Most never did. To the hurried crowd, Elias had become almost invisible, another forgotten object blending into the background of the city. Every now and then a coin would fall into his cup, but most people walked past without slowing down, never realizing that behind those simple words was a man who had once lived a full life filled with dreams, hard work, and hope. Yet despite everything he had lost, Elias still returned to the same corner every single day, believing that somewhere among the endless crowd, kindness still existed. The afternoon crowd grew even larger as office workers hurried to meetings, students rushed home, tourists searched for directions, and delivery riders weaved through traffic carrying meals to strangers. Elias remained seated quietly on his wooden crate, listening to the rhythm of footsteps passing by. Occasionally, a coin landed in his aluminum cup, but long stretches of silence reminded him how easily people overlooked someone they did not truly see. He never blamed anyone. He simply accepted that life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. Then, something unusual happened. A young delivery rider stopped directly in front of him. Unlike most people, the young man didn't immediately reach for his wallet or continue walking. Instead, he crouched beside Elias without saying a word. Hearing someone so close, Elias felt the cardboard sign being gently lifted from the ground. His heart skipped a beat. That old sign was one of the few possessions he still had, and for a brief moment he feared it might be taken away. Still, his pride kept him silent. He trusted the stranger enough not to accuse him or beg him to stop. The young man turned the cardboard over, pulled a black marker from his jacket pocket, and carefully began writing. Every stroke was slow and thoughtful, as though he understood that the right words carried far more power than most people realized. When he finished, he placed the sign back exactly where it had been, gave Elias a gentle smile that the old man could not see, and quietly disappeared into the moving crowd before expecting any thanks. Elias sat in silence, wondering what had just happened. Minutes passed with nothing unusual, but soon the sounds around him began to change. The fast footsteps that normally rushed past started slowing down. People paused beside him instead of walking away. Soft voices filled the air as strangers read the new message. One after another, coins began dropping into the cup. Then came paper bills, folding gently as they landed. The small aluminum cup filled faster than it ever had before. For the first time in many months, Elias didn't just hear charity. He heard compassion. Some people wished him a good day. Others quietly told him they hoped life would become easier. A few even stopped long enough to ask if he needed food or water. Every kind word warmed his heart more than the money itself. Elias couldn't understand what had changed, but he could feel that something extraordinary had happened. Without seeing a single face, he realized the city was finally seeing him. As the afternoon slowly turned into evening, the steady flow of kindness never stopped. More people paused to read the message before gently placing money into Elias's cup. Some offered him a bottle of water, others handed him fresh sandwiches or fruit, and a few simply stood beside him for a moment, wishing him strength and better days ahead. For the first time in years, Elias no longer felt invisible. The city that had once rushed past him without a second glance now seemed filled with people who truly cared. He couldn't see their faces, but he could hear something he hadn't heard in a very long time: genuine compassion. Just before sunset, a familiar voice reached his ears. It was the young delivery rider returning after finishing another busy shift. Elias immediately recognized him and smiled warmly. "Excuse me, son," he said softly. "Were you the one who changed my sign this morning?" The young man stopped and walked closer. "Yes," he replied with a gentle smile. Elias carefully held the cardboard in his hands and asked, "Please tell me, what did you write that made everyone stop?" The young man paused for a moment before answering. "I didn't change the truth," he said calmly. "I simply changed the way people experienced it. Instead of only telling them about your blindness, I reminded them of something precious they were able to enjoy but that you could never see." He then read the message aloud. "Today is a beautiful day, but I can't see it." For several quiet seconds, neither of them spoke. Elias gently ran his fingers across the surface of the cardboard, imagining the words written there. A tear slowly rolled down his weathered cheek. His life had not suddenly become easy. His eyesight had not returned, and his struggles had not disappeared. Yet those simple words had accomplished something remarkable. They had transformed strangers from hurried passers-by into compassionate human beings. Instead of seeing a beggar asking for help, people now imagined losing something they treasured every single day. In that brief moment, they understood his pain, and understanding awakened kindness that had been hidden inside their hearts all along. As the city lights slowly illuminated the streets, Elias sat quietly with a heart that felt lighter than it had in years. The money in his cup would help him for a while, but the greatest gift he received that day wasn't financial support. It was the feeling of being seen, respected, and valued again. A few thoughtful words had reminded hundreds of busy strangers that every person carries a story, even if it cannot be seen at first glance. The delivery rider never asked for recognition and never waited to be thanked. He simply believed that kindness becomes more powerful when it inspires others to care. As he disappeared into the evening crowd, Elias smiled through his tears, knowing that although darkness still surrounded his eyes, hope had found its way back into his heart. The city itself had not changed, but the hearts of the people had. Sometimes, changing the world doesn't require great wealth, extraordinary talent, or remarkable power. Sometimes, it begins with choosing words that awaken compassion instead of indifference. From that day forward, everyone who stopped to read Elias's sign left carrying an important reminder. Empathy begins when we pause long enough to imagine another person's life. And often, the smallest act of kindness creates a ripple that reaches far beyond what we can ever see. The right words have the power to awaken compassion, change perspectives, and inspire kindness. When we choose our words with empathy, we don't just communicate, we touch hearts and make the world a little brighter. Never underestimate the power of kindness or the impact of thoughtful words. A simple message can change a single moment, a single heart, or even an entire life. Sometimes, the greatest miracles begin with nothing more than understanding another person's pain. This is the end of the story,